never thought the smell of bleach and the quiet hum of empty hallways at midnight would be my safe place. But for 15 years, they were. My name is Elena, and I was the head janitor at Apex Dynamics, one of the biggest tech companies in the city. While executives in their glass offices chased bonuses and stock options, I kept the building alive. I knew which printer always jammed on the third floor. I knew the exact time the coffee machine in the executive lounge needed descaling so it wouldn't ruin anyone's important meeting. I wiped away their spilled secrets, their late-night tears, their careless messes. Without ever asking for thanks. I was a single mother raising my daughter, Sophia, who needed expensive therapy after losing her father young. Every paycheck went to her care, to rent, to the quiet promise I made myself that I would never let her see me break. The team called me Miss Elena. Some even left little notes of gratitude on their desks. For a long time, that was enough, until the day they decided I was disposable. It started with a new regional manager, Vanessa. Sharp suits, colder eyes. She didn't like that I'd been there longer than she had. She especially didn't like that I had once politely reminded her assistant about the proper way to dispose of sensitive documents. 2 weeks later, I was called into HR. They said I was being let go for performance issues and repeated complaints from staff. I stood there in my worn uniform, hands still smelling of cleaning solution, and stared at the papers they slid across the table. My hands shook as I signed. Not from fear, but from the sudden, crushing weight of betrayal. I had given this building my nights, my weekends, my dignity. And they threw me away like a used paper towel. The walk out of that building with my small box of personal things felt like the longest of my life. I kept my head high, but inside I was shattered. How do you explain to your 15-year-old daughter that the job you've had since before she was born is gone? How do you tell her there won't be money for her next therapy session, or the new shoes she's been quietly hoping for? I spent the first few nights crying in the shower so Sophia wouldn't hear. I replayed every moment. Had I really become invisible to them? Just the woman who made things clean so they could make their millions? The friends I thought I had on the night crew stopped answering my calls. One even said, "I'm sorry, Elena, but I need this job." Their silence hurt worse than Vanessa's smirk. I started looking for new work. But at my age and with my limited formal education, doors that once felt open now slammed shut. The bills piled up. Sophia tried to be strong for me, but I saw the worry in her eyes. That's when the real pain set in, not just losing my job, but feeling like I had failed the only person who mattered. But what I didn't know was that the universe was already moving pieces I couldn't see. 3 days after I was fired, Apex Dynamics was hosting a major board meeting and a surprise visit from the company's founder and CEO, Mr. Richard Harlan. He rarely came to this location. Most employees had never even seen him in person. Security was tight. The building was buzzing. And Vanessa was desperate to make everything look perfect. That's when the problems started. The executive conference room projector wouldn't turn on. The temperature in the main hall kept spiking. Important files that were supposed to be prepared for the CEO mysteriously went missing from the system. Panic spread through the management floor like wildfire. Vanessa screamed at her team. No one could fix it, because the person who knew every system, every backup, every hidden trick in that building was no longer there. I was at home when my old supervisor, Mr. Patel, one of the few decent people, called me in a whisper. "Elena, please. They're begging. The CEO is walking the floors in 20 minutes and everything is falling apart. Can you come? Just for today. We'll pay you cash." My pride screamed no. But Sophia's worried face in the kitchen made me say yes. I arrived in my old uniform, hair pulled back, carrying my familiar supply cart. The same guards who had watched me leave with my box now let me in without a word. I moved quickly through the building, fixing what only I knew how to fix. I didn't ask for credit. I just did what I had always done, and then he walked in.
Richard Harlan entered the lobby like a man who owned the air itself. Tall, silver-haired, commanding. Everyone straightened. Vanessa practically tripped over herself trying to greet him. I stayed in the background near the service elevator, wiping down a glass panel, hoping to finish and leave before anyone noticed. But he noticed. His steps slowed. He turned his head. Our eyes met across the polished floor. For a second, the entire world went still. Recognition flooded his face, not just as the janitor, but something deeper. "Elena?" His voice carried across the lobby. I froze. 15 years earlier, before Apex was this giant, Richard had been a young engineer working late nights in a small startup office. I was the night cleaner there too. We had shared coffee, quiet conversations, and one rainy night, a single dance at a company party that neither of us ever spoke of again. He had gone on to build an empire. I had stayed behind, choosing stability for my daughter after my husband left. He walked straight to me, ignoring Vanessa's frantic attempts to redirect him. "You fired her?" His voice was low, but the entire floor heard it. Vanessa stammered. "It was a performance decision, sir." She is the reason this building runs," he said, his tone cutting like steel. "While you were busy chasing titles, Elena kept this place alive. She knows more about how this company actually works than half the executives." He turned to security. "Escort Miss Vanessa and anyone who signed off on this termination out of the building. Effective immediately." I stood there, stunned, as the woman who had destroyed my peace was led away, her face pale with shock. Richard looked at me with something like regret and respect. "Elena, I'm so sorry. Come with me." What followed was a whirlwind. He publicly acknowledged my years of service. He offered me a new position, not as janitor, but as facilities director with a salary that would change our lives. More importantly, he made sure every person who had turned their back on me understood the cost of cruelty. Vanessa and her allies were investigated. Turns out their performance issues excuse had been hiding their own financial misconduct. They lost everything they had tried to protect by throwing me away. That evening, as I stood on the rooftop terrace with Richard, watching the city lights, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because I got revenge, but because the truth finally walked in and refused to look away. Sophia started therapy again. We moved to a safer neighborhood, and I learned the most important lesson of my life. Never underestimate the quiet ones who keep the world running while others take the spotlight. The ones who clean up messes without complaint often see more than anyone realizes. And when the moment comes, the universe has a way of letting the right person walk through the door. If you're watching this and feeling invisible, broken, or betrayed, hold on. Your value is not defined by those who failed to see it. One day the right eyes will open, and when they do, the truth will speak louder than any lie ever could. Thank you for being here with me. Remember, your story isn't over. The CEO of your own life is still walking in.